Thank God it's Friday. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. As always, I have the ladies with me. Hello, Tokwe. How you doing?
Thank God it's Friday. So I have vigil today for the first time in many years. Vigil.
Oh, vigil. Wow.
Yeah. There was a time in my life that every Friday was vigil because we were in a season that we're in CAC. I was born in CNS, Cherubim and Seraphim, but we went into CAC season and it was vigil we were praying, binding, casting, doing everything every Friday. And then life just happened and we discovered life is not that hard. Jesus, you know, like Jesus loves us. He wouldn't want us to be sleepless for 3 days a week and fasting for 7 days a week. But we're going through a trying time as a nation, and my unit in church felt it was necessary for our team to have an uninterrupted time with God. And the best time we can have that uninterruption was vigil. When I told my mama, I said, is it night you can see God? I said, no, we're not like that. We are not doing vigil because we want to hear from God at night. It's that we know we won't receive phone calls. We know that we can have dedicated time, a few hours to connect with God. And I think it's extremely important for anybody whose spirit is feeling heavy to find that spiritual, because we use the spirit to encourage our soul as we are journeying through whatever we're journeying through at time.
Yeah, one of those seasons. I don't know, just the last few days, my spirit has just been very, very, the whole thing's just coming. I'm trying to use everything to, ramp myself up, but it's all good. How are you doing, Toby?
I'm very well, thank you. And so this week is Convention Week, Redeem Convention Week. Yeah. I don't attend Redeem anymore, but I grew up in Redeem. So yesterday I was able to watch the service, and it just brought back the memories of growing up, how it is that my mom would just, take us to camp. And it was also beautiful watching it because my husband wanted us to watch it, and I'm like, you make me miss so more. And, it was really such a beautiful experience.
Yeah, this Friday is usually the finale. It usually ends by weekend.
I saw Mr. Brown is there.
And usually, same thing. We used to go every time. In recent life happens, and you watch it on since COVID. Actually, you watch it on TV. There was a time every first Friday we're in camp. Okay. For the convention, the congress, we're always in camp. But after COVID, I don't know what happened. Everybody just went back to virtual.
You realize that you can have a spiritual connection in your house.
Yeah. So the virtual has really spoiled us. But we might be going tonight by God's grace. We'll see how that goes. Yeah.
What's the plan for today? Is Friday.
Today's Friday. This weekend, I'm hanging out with Mrs. Agbeleshe. That's Winfrey at her. She's having a pageant coming up tomorrow for young people. She's been encouraging pageants, actually. Those who just to give them some kind of role model and have people who support them, their craft, because pageantry hasn't been something we really pushed. At some point, it was popular, then it has kind of died down. She's trying to bring that back up. So supporting her the best I can. And FIRC, I'm supposed to be also going there tomorrow as an event at FIRC.
Wow.
As their celebrity something, I think ambassador or something. Celebrity marshal. That's the word, celebrity marshal. So I'm there. And on Sunday, I'm going to a different church.
A ministry?
I'm not a ministry, no. But I've been invited for an event in a different church. So it's a busy weekend for me. Let's go on a break. When we return, we'll look at the front pages of the papers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
All right, we're going to start with the nation. ECOWAS puts troops on standby for Niger rep junta. NBS reports a Greek sector lost 577 billion naira to flooding in 2022. General Agwai Jega Uwais Bugaje, 8 others don't use force on coupists. Oshomole to Sheibo, APC not haven for failed politicians. Southeast governors to battle insecurity collectively. Cabbage ripened fruits dangerous, says NAFDAC. Okay, so let me start with the major headline concerning everybody has been monitoring the news, especially because there was a meeting that was recently organized by all the heads of states of ECOWAS. At the extraordinary meeting in 1 week on the last month's coup in Niger, they came together and there was a decision that was made that they have to put the troops on standby, especially because the coupists, the junta, have refused to release the detained president of Niger Republic. The adamant Niger Republic junta got that warning yesterday after the meeting. There was a consensus by all the various heads of states. The meeting came almost a week after the expiration of 1 week ultimatum given to the junta to quit office and restore democratic rule. Many of them believe that democracy must be restored and there must be an example set. One of the heads of state was speaking yesterday, and he said that ECOWAS cannot, that even all the times where they've even intervened in Liberia, Sierra Leone, there have been many people that had actually objected to it, but they must not look at that objection right now. They must very focus on ensuring that democracy is restored. So the military has been put on standby. They've contacted all the various chief of army staff across the nations to be on standby just in case there will be need.
But the economic realities were different then than now. I just wish that the Nigerian people would, the Nigerian junta would release the former president and at least we'll let them coordinate by themselves. I'm taking the story of Agric and the flooding. The statistician general of the Federation, Semiu Adeniro, said that the total amount of money that Nigeria lost, or the agri sector lost in 2022 due to flooding, was 577 billion. It came about this figure in conjunction with the NEMA. There was a meeting that took place yesterday in Abuja. He said that they carried out a survey in partnership with UNDP, that's the United Nations Development Programme, as well as the National Emergency Management Agency, and they focused this survey on Anambra, Bayelsa, Delta, Jigawa, Kogi, and Nasarawa states. Adeniro said that the flood affected economic activities and disrupted essential services, but he said the agri sector was most affected. He said crop production, livestock, fishery are the ones that bore the brunt of this, and the total figure of what farmers lost in those states was over 577 billion naira. We're hoping that there is a way for us to, from doing assessments like this, we're able to better handle future expectations, because we know we cannot stop flooding. Flooding will still happen, but when we know its impact, we can prevent and know how to address the issues.
Right. Okay.
Yes, my story is about carbide ripened fruits endanger health, says NAFDAC. The National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control has alerted Nigerians to the dangers of eating fruits ripened with calcium carbide. So this story was about a workshop that NAFDAC had in Port Harcourt. And the DG, Professor Moji Adeyeye, gave the warning yesterday in Uyo, saying that there are dangers of drug hawking first and ripening fruits with calcium carbide. So most times we would naturally say eating fruit is good, eating fruit is good. But now, how can we identify fruits that have been ripened with carbide? Because the article goes on to say that the agency said such fruits cause life-threatening ailments such as cancer, hypertension, burning sensation in the chest, in the eyes and stomach.
I think the conversation is to go into the markets, because expecting us as citizens to be the one to identify might be tough.
Yes.
But if you go to the market and you sensitize them, they see what it will do to people, they might stop doing it.
Let's, still on the same paper, the president has rejoiced with the doyen of accounting in Nigeria and Africa, Chief Akintola Williams, on his 104th birthday.
Me too, we rejoice, sir.
He shared this special moment with all his friends and professional associates of the elder statesmen whose vision and resilience has altered the history of Nigeria for better. The president noted that the celebrants established the first indigenous accounting firm in Africa, Akintola Williams & Co., and we all celebrate and join his family and friends in that 104 celebration.
104.
Wow.
Sing, can read, can speak. That's a gift of life.
The Punch. Niger crisis, ECOWAS troops on standby. Junta threatens to kill Bazoum. Elevator crash, more dust after Lagos female doctor's tragic death. Flood hit Edo, Adamawa, Ekiti, and others. Bus crashes in Lagos shops, kills mother and daughter. Kalu lobbies Ganduje for Southeast ministerial slots. Naira slump, fuel price may go up, says marketers. And Shebu Force defection claim court halts removal. Let me complete the story concerning the ECOWAS, because one of the key things the heads of states had discussed also at the meeting was that they had sent delegations, high-level personalities like former President Abdul Salami, the Sultan of Sokoto, former Governor CBN, Sanusi, and many others to negotiate with them. but they're keeping President Bazoum hostage, and this is considered a terrorist act. And because of that, they cannot stand by and watch them do that. They must see what they can do to restore democracy. So just telling you, the reasons why they are putting the military on standby. Any other story in the Punch?
Lots of stories. The petrol price might be going up. They said that that's based on Naira free fall. This is coming from marketers, not from NNPC. The NNPC, as well as major oil marketers, have not announced that there will be any change in petrol prices. But because the Naira keeps falling as compared to the dollar, it is... They said the petrol price, has, if you recollect, from 198 per litre in May to over 500 per litre in June, and now over 600 in July. Then it continues to rise further even now in August. And they're saying, going by the crash of the Naira to the dollar, they say currently Naira has dropped to about 900 to a dollar, and the scarcity of dollars would affect the price of petrol in Nigeria. They also mentioned that the price benchmark for crude oil was about $87, and it was trading for $80 just per barrel a few days ago. So usually when we see the price of crude oil goes up, we should be happy as a nation that sells crude oil, that we're going to get more revenue. But because of the way our Naira is, it is not good for us with the petrol, because the prices of petrol might likely go up.
Any other story?
Bus crashes into Lagos shops, kills mother and daughter. This happened in Ikotun. So a woman was crushed to death alongside her 2-year-old daughter in Ikotun, Lagos. And so when this happened, the bus ran into a couple of shops, killing the mother and the 2-year-old child. And when the driver saw the extent of what happened, he fled because he was about to be lynched. Wow. So the police arrived at the scene also, and have been trying to identify the driver. It's such a sad one. We hope that God comforts the family and the driver is found.
Really sad.
You have the update on the elevator story.
Let me go on a quick break. When we come back, we'll continue with our review. Stay with us, we'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. All right, we're going to move on now to Vanguard. Niger, ECOWAS orders deployment of standby force. Southeast Governors Reps Army move against insecurity. Why Naira is depreciating. Job racketeering. Reps panel orders arrest of ex-FCC staff. 21 killed in fresh attacks on 2 Plateau communities. Defection APC National Working Committee to welcome Edo Deputy Governor next week. Danfo drivers not complying with transport fare. And Man City can't recreate treble win with Guardiola. Okay, let me start with the Danfo drivers. So if you remember, the Lagos State Governor had requested that the Danfo drivers specifically reduce the transport fare by 25%. However, the Lagos State Governor was quite disappointed to see that there was only about 60% partial compliance across. They had sent an enforcement team from the Ministry of Transportation out yesterday, and while they went to various parks to find out how they were complying with the directive, they saw that there was only about 60% compliance. The Permanent Secretary Ministry, Abdulafiz Toriola, who was requested by the Director of Transport Operations, Olasukomi, said that they had to plead with the drivers to comply with the directive from the governor. It was quite unfortunate, although we know that their leader had actually come out to say that they will comply, but only about this 60% compliance is not fair enough, because we need the support from government across to ensure people are able to have, some extra money on their hands. So I'm hoping that they're able to appeal to them to get them to accept the 25% less fee for the customers. Okay. Any other story in Vanguard?
Yes, definitely. The job racketeering following up to that story, the House of Representatives have issued a bench arrest. They said that they've asked Yusuf Kolo, a former staff of the Federal Character Commission, to show up, and his failure to appear before the Haddock Committee, that is investigating job racketeering in ministries, departments, and agencies. Yusuf Gadi, the chairman, has said that as of now, they've asked him to appear twice to answer those questions, and he did not show up. And so they are going to be restraining him. He will lose his freedom because they have issued the arrest that he should be arrested and brought to face the panel. Then also for Aruna Kolo, who is currently in the position, he now works for Asset Management, AMCON. Before he was working for Federal Character Commission, and now he's in AMCON. And they are saying that he has to also appear and defend. If we recollect, this was because some people wrote a petition against these people for being involved in collecting money from them to guarantee them jobs within federal government, and the job did not come up. So I think it's good for Nigerians to be writing letters to their House of Reps and House of Assembly. At least if you have any issue, they might be able to investigate based on your own.
But we choose not to write. We just go on social media and start.
Because now these people have evidence against. Because Nigerian citizens decided that I have paid, I didn't get the job, I'm going to.
And that's the culture we must encourage. Let us do the work of writing and complain, not just be on social media, oh, the road is bad, oh, this is bad, and just stop, and then we now trend, and we then move on. But if you write
the letter.
Right, so we're going to be following up the YK's letter, and hopefully that something gets done. Another story in Vanguard?
Yes, 21 killed in fresh attacks on 2 Plateau communities. So the communities are Batin and Rayigot in Bakinladi local government in Plateau State. 21 people were said to have been killed by unscrupulous gunmen. We don't know who they are, according to the article. And the Governor Mufwang, is saddened by this. But there are speculations that it is either a faith-based killing or an ethnic-based killing. So,
such a sad story. Every time, back to back, we keep hearing in Plateau State.
Especially in places like that. We just hope that this would end soon, and we can all live in peace and harmony.
Okay, let me take another story in Vanguard. The National State House of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal yesterday sacked the member representing Tarauni Federal Constituency in the House of Rep yesterday. According to the report, the 3-member tribunal led by Justice I.P. Chima, he is actually from the party, House of Representatives from the party NNPP. So Justice Chima ruled that the primary school certificate submitted by Yakima to INEC to support his qualification was actually forged. The panel declared that the second winner, which is APC candidate, became the substantive rep. Called that Yakima was declared the winner back with 26,000 votes, that he defeated Hafizu Awu of APC by 15,000 votes. So now Awu will become the House of Reps member, and Yakima has been sacked by the court.
Wow.
You know, forgery, certificate forgery is just...
I thought this would have been done before the...
Yeah.
Let me quickly do, before we leave the Vanguard. The story about Shaibu. You know, we've been following the deputy governor of Edo story. That was how we now heard the news yesterday that the deputy governor is decamping to APC. And they said it was confirmed that APC people said they are waiting to receive the deputy governor, that he has now perfected the process to decamp to APC. However, former governor, who is also APC member, said that APC is not the dumping ground for disgruntled politicians. He said that based on what he's reading, he wants to say that nobody should run to APC thinking that they would get free hand. He said that his advice is those who are having challenges should learn how to respect their bosses and resolve the issues and be loyal. That's his own opinion. However, Shaibu said that he's not moving anywhere. He's going to stay, that the news of his defection is a lie. He intends to stay in PDP, stay with Obaseki, work things out. It's far from the truth. The back and forth is very, very... We're tired, but we will not get tired because we are Edo people by marriage and we want to see Edo develop.
Nigerian Tribune. Let's find a story of not taking. LCDA's public hearing sparks row in Ondo. Gunmen killed 21 in Plateau communities. How dollar rate ex-depot price will push petrol pump price up. Naira tumbles to 955 at the parallel market. Why price of cooking gas may surge, says marketers. Ohaneze describes allocation of 5 ministerial slots to Southeast unjust and demands equity. So the Southeast has protested Ohaneze, that's by the President Chief Emmanuel Nwanyawu, in an electronic message made available to the Nigerian Tribune. He underlined the unfairness on the fact that only 5 slots were provided to the zone, while others got 10 slots, others got 9 slots. He said the Igbo believed in the united Nigeria that the objective could only be achieved through equity, fairness among the constituent units of the country. Therefore, demand justice, fairness, equity for every ethnic group in Nigeria, including the Igbo. He said that the email was distributed worldwide, and as hoping that the president would make amends and adjust it. So therefore demand justice immediately. All honest Nigerians know that the Igbo did not play much part during this election exercise. As a result, the Southeast was shortchanged with 5 states, while other zones have minimum of 6 states. Okay.
I don't know how they're going to resolve this issue because...
The zoning issue.
Yeah.
We must also understand it's also political. You know, it's so the whole everything is politics, and if you don't, I don't know.
Even if you don't, because I feel like if somebody whips it up enough, they'll be able to get sentiments on their side, and they already have a lot of it. Like your last born is complaining, and then it now seems like you're now robbing. I don't know. It's just
you know how many sentiments we whipped up when we were talking about where we wanted the president to come from. We did that a lot. And how did that end? So
didn't help us
it's politics, and we have to understand that politics is different from conventional way of doing things. Yes, go ahead.
I have the story on why price of cooking gas may surge. The hike in the foreign exchange rate and activities in the international market have resulted in the increase of the price of cooking gas. The Nigerian Association of Liquefied Petroleum Gas Marketers have said. So Mr. Olatubosan Ladapo is the president of this association, and he mentioned that there's a significant increase in forex, and there's also the scarcity of forex. So these 2 factors are some of the reasons why there would be an increase in the price of cooking gas. And it says that it is starting next week because international prices have gone up. And he also highlights that taxes are now increased, and there are multiple ways of, the government getting payments from them, and that's also a reason. So he also went on to say that you can imagine that for every 1 kg of gas priced at 700 naira, tax would take away 3 naira 50 kobo. How much is left in such a business? So we should really get prepared. And I don't know, can we store gas?
I don't know. But as of today, just say they are promising that the price of cooking gas would increase. The petrol price is speculated to hit 750 naira per litre. That's the speculation based on dollar and based on crude oil prices internationally. We'll be all right.
Any other story in Vanguard? In Tribune, actually, there was another story that caught my attention. So the public hearing on the creation of that's the LCS, the Local Council Development Areas, on Thursday sparked a row and controversy as the Ijaw nationals within the state protested over the, the ceding of the Ijaw communities of Eseodo to Ilaje local government area. Also, the 2 communities of Akure and Ishikon in the present Akure South local government area differed on the creation of the Akure West LCDA with headquarters in Ishikon, which almost degenerated into fisticuffs at the LCDA yesterday. Trouble has started when the Akure representative made their presentation before the panel, and the traditional ruler they were prevented from speaking, actually, by some Akure indigenes, saying that they have spoken once with one voice. However, after several minutes of opera, the monarch was allowed to make a brief presentation, but they advocated that the name should be changed to Isikon or Isokon, LCD. So there's a lot of drama going on there. But sorry? Isokon.
No, but it's Ijaw in Yoruba.
So in the Akure community, so there's a lot of going back and forth.
The Ijaw people that are within a Yoruba, everybody is clamoring to be heard. Everybody wants to be seen.
Things are different. Things have changed. We all now want to be independent in different ways. Okay, we can't take much stories, but let me just quickly go to The Guardian. Niger reforms new government as ECOWAS standby force ready for deployment. Youth party faults claim of 1 trillion naira saved in post-subsidy era. Reps issues arrest warrant on IPPIS officer over alleged job racketeering. You took that story. Nigerian artists raised 11 billion naira revenue from Spotify in 2022.
Wow.
Okay, let's take that story.
Nigerian artists raised 11 billion naira revenue from Spotify in 2022. So Spotify is an online platform, a streaming online platform for music, and Nigerians have raked in 11 billion naira from that
in 1 year
platform alone in 2022, yes. And the article goes on to say that it is a 74% increase from 2021. You realize,
oh, that's good. Nigerian music is trending, and this is a good thing. I'm sure that the FIRS people now, they'll start looking at all the celebrities with different eye. The challenge is they have left Nigeria for you. They have even left Nigeria. Most of the A-list artists don't live in Nigeria, so you cannot
tax them.
You can't tax them.
But this is where most of their money is coming from, isn't it? So when we say dollar is
selling our...
yes, now. When we say dollar is going up, we are part of the problem.
And right? But we did not give them platform. Right?
Anyway, it's a vicious circle that we must decide. Everybody at some point must agree on what we need to do. That's all we can take on front page review. It's a tough time, but it's all good. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we continue with the show. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Joining us on the show now is the President's spokesman, the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity, Mr. Ajuri Ngelale. Welcome to the show, Ajuri.
Good morning, ladies. Good morning to all of you, and good morning to our viewers.
Yes, good to have you, Ajuri. Congratulations on your appointment, recent appointment. Wishing you all the best. Now, let's...
I'm sorry that...
Can you hear me, Ajuri?
There's a bit of interference. Yes, please.
Can you hear me now, Ajuri?
I can hear you.
Great. Now, let's start very quickly with the latest news concerning our military troops on standby to Niger Republic. So yesterday, under the leadership of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, ECOWAS has agreed to have the military on standby to restore constitutional rule in Niger Republic. Now, this appears to be a rather unpopular opinion amongst Nigerians and even citizens across the ECOWAS community. What are your thoughts on this? How do you react to this rather unpopular decision by the heads of states across ECOWAS?
Thank you very much, Marayo. You know, so effectively, what we can tell Nigerians this morning is that all measures, all options remain on the table as of this morning. Some of your question was cut out by a bit of interference, but I would say that clearly His Excellency, the chairman of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State, and the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, demonstrated extraordinary leadership yesterday, really galvanizing all of the heads of state across language barriers to come to a unanimous and consensus position on all components of the response of the ECOWAS authority with respect to the crisis in Niger. What we have seen is there has been some attempt on the part of some segments of the media to really kind of run a little bit faster than their legs a bit in reporting that we've seen headlines that ECOWAS has ordered military force against Niger and all sorts of very sensational headlines that we find irresponsible. But this morning we want to clarify and ensure that everyone understands that yes, indeed it is true that the ECOWAS did authorize the committee of ECOWAS defense chiefs or chiefs of defense staff to activate the ECOWAS standby force and all of its ancillaries to ensure that even as all options remain on the table, that those options as they are on the table are fully prepared to go with respect to whatever decision ultimately needs to be made as we wind up this crisis. But also, we should emphasize that Mr. President was very, very clear in his remarks that military intervention is a means of last resort. It is not an immediate step. It is not something that we're looking to do in any kind of immediate term. It is a last resort. But to take it off the table in view of what we've seen in Niger with respect to the detention of President Bazoum and his family and members of his government, we believe that that would be irresponsible. So all options still do remain on the table.
All right. Great. Okay.
So for me, still talking about the Niger junta and the fact that a lot of advice have come in that where we are as a country, where we are financially, where we are with our own in-house insecurity challenges, is it even a move to consider that we will be taking military action, if necessary, against another sovereign nation because we feel that it is necessary as ECOWAS? And so I'd like you to help us get the perspective of the president regarding that economical and insecurity within Nigeria and its impact if we decide to go into a physical military fight with Niger.
So unfortunately, there's a bit of a technical difficulty, so I'm not receiving your question clearly.
I don't know how to, let me try and say it again. We would like to get the president's perspective on how he's responding to the fact that we do have a lot of financial and insecurity challenges within our country, and many Nigerians feel it is not the right time to go into a military offensive with Niger. What is his response to that?
Oh, thank you very much. I heard you very clearly. Yes. So this is a legitimate concern on the part of our people. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is certainly aware, more keenly, more acutely aware of the consequences of potential military intervention in Niger Republic than anybody else. He sees the balance sheets. He knows exactly what's going on in the country. He knows the challenges currently facing our people across increasing energy prices and food prices and other challenges in the country. He also recognizes, as the chairperson of the ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and as the president of our country, that simply sitting back and watching the hostile takeover of nation states by rogue actors is an unsustainable means of development for the entire continent, including Nigeria, if we allow it to continue unchecked. Already, I think we have, as a kind of public analysis in the country, there's been a tendency to overlook the fact that already the sub-region has experienced 3 coups over the course of the last 3.5 years. Everyone's fixated rightly on Niger, but there's a history to this. And the reason why we've seen over the course of the last 20 years so little, coup activity, and then all of a sudden this explosion of 3 coups in the sub-region in the last 3.5 years, it's simply because the previous coup attempts in these other countries that proved to be successful were not responded to by ECOWAS. And we've seen the consequence of it. So the question now is, how do we create jobs for our people in the country? Is it not going to be by attracting foreign direct investment? Is it not going to be by ensuring that we have secured our nation within our borders in such a way that we can have the facilities established in place so that our people can be employed and so that wealth can be generated and tax revenue can be generated and the like? This is how we're going to do it. But if we continue to allow rogue actors within nations to simply take up arms against the state and take over the way that we've seen it occur in Niger Republic, then that is going to continue to happen, which means that you're not going to have foreign investors coming here. They will look for other continents, or at least at the minimum other parts of this continent to invest in. It is not in our medium to long-term interest to simply sit back in any kind of a cowardly fashion and say, well, we don't want to get involved with anything because we're scared of the potential consequence. We tried the meek and a kind of appeasement approach over the course of the last 3 coups we saw, but now it's hitting close to home. and there's a decision to be made. So what we are saying is that we are in no hurry at all. Mr. President has been very, very wise, been very circumspect about all factors that will go into any kind of collective decision as it relates to military intervention. But that is not our focus now. Our focus now is championing the cause of diplomacy and direct and active dialogue until we come to what hopefully should be a peaceful resolution of this crisis. But we will not back down and say that because we're scared of confrontation, we're going to take the military option off the table. That's not who we are, and that's not what we're going to do.
Let me go on a very short break. When we come back, we continue this conversation with Ajuri. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. Ajuri, still with us?
Absolutely.
Right. So let me ask you one final question concerning Niger before we move on to other segments. Now, word on the street is many have actually expressed their concerns, legitimate concerns, if you may, of the reason of those who are supporting the military junta, saying that it's about the dominance of France in their country and corruption allegations against the detained president, amongst other things. Some have said that this is a time to take their country back into their own hands. Although ECOWAS would prefer a more democratic approach rather than a coup, is there any sort of middle ground ECOWAS is considering, saying, instead of insisting on Bazoum's resumption as president, maybe some kind of democratic transition into a different presidency or something that can make things work out rather than bringing Bazoum, because they're insisting that Bazoum shouldn't become president back?
Times when discussing this issue of a homeowner who takes good care of his staff, equips the security, makes sure that everything is in order, and then one night the security guard decides that he's going to hold the homeowner hostage in his own home with his family, essentially, and that he's going to take over the entire, home complex, so to speak. And the question now is, if you're a neighbor of such a home, and you have an established relationship, in fact, you're even a partner in investment in infrastructure projects like railways and all sorts of commercial ties between our two nation states. And you have the populations of both countries very, very close. In the northern part of our country, our people are intermarrying frequently with Nigerians. I mean, the ties are very, very tight and very, very deep. What we are saying is that right now in Niger Republic, anybody who is pro-democracy, anybody who cast their ballot just 2 years ago for President Bazoum and his political party, anybody who is anti-authoritarian rule, cannot freely come out today in Niger Republic and voice their opinion. It's impossible. You're going to be under the threat of either a beatdown, detention, or potentially death, if not all three. So what we are saying is that the notion that you fill a stadium with people, and we all know that elite figures in society have the ability to mobilize people into stadiums, as it were. The notion that that is representative of the entire population of Niger Republic, when we know that everybody that is pro-democracy in that country is currently under forceful suppression, I think is just a misunderstanding of the situation. So what we are saying is that we are going to stand up as a community, ECOWAS, not just Nigeria in isolation, not just President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in isolation, but the entire ECOWAS community has been very clear across language barriers that we will stand with the voiceless people of the Niger Republic and ensure that we engage on their behalf the way that we would hope anyone would engage on our behalf if we were found in a similar situation. And that's what we're going to continue to do.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Understanding the state of the nation and how a few policies have affected Nigeria as the average Nigerian knew it to be, right? May I request that you speak to the average Nigerian who is unsure of what next the government will bring in place, you know, because I understand that there are short-term benefits of these things. Yes, it may be hard right now, but there are necessary changes. So could you kindly speak to the average Nigerian who is unsure, but still is hopeful about Nigeria?
Ajuri, did you get that question from Toby? Okay, I think we're having... Hello, Ajuri. Okay, I think we lost connection with him. But so we're going to be moving on to other parts, which is where Toby is leading us to. Aside from the issue of insecurity, we're going to be talking about the state of the nation with Ajuri, the economy, removal of subsidy, naira depreciation, food inflation, minimum wage, job creation, amongst every other thing. What the plans are.
Endless.
The list is endless. So hopefully we can get him back to give us some clarity on, just like you said, you know, how does this interpret to Nigerians? How do they understand the policies this government is putting in place, and how would they be communicated properly to Nigerians so that they can understand? And we're going to go on a quick break. Hopefully, by the time we come back, we'll have gained reconnection with him. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.
Thanks for staying with us. We still have Ajuri, and Toby had asked a question, especially considering the issue of removal of subsidy, the new policies, and how it's affecting Nigerians. So I'd like Ajuri to please help address that very quickly. Go ahead, Ajuri.
Thank you very much, Murayo. So even though the crisis in Niger has been a major distraction for our country and for the country's leadership, there's really no doubt anyone who has the privilege of observing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu up close will tell you that there is nothing more pressing on his mind from morning to night than the struggles and pains, economic pains, confronting Nigerians across this country. All segments of the society have been affected by the removal of the fuel subsidy on one hand, and by the unification of foreign exchange rates on the other hand, and what that has meant in terms of the devaluation of the currency, what that has meant for rising, the stagnation of wages, along with rising food and energy costs. So we know exactly what Nigerians are going through. And that is why Mr. President has been very, very communicative, really speaking directly to Nigerians at a frequency that Nigerians really aren't used to from a president, to really communicate to them on a real-time, updated basis on those immediate, urgent emergency measures that he's putting in place to provide some succor. So on the one hand, yes, Mr. President has announced of course, the release of 200,000 metric tons of grains from the Strategic Grain Reserve to oversupply our markets with a view to crashing the cost of food in the country. Additionally, directing the release of 225,000 metric tons of fertilizers, seedlings, and other agricultural supplements for our farmers to massively bolster production nationwide, to not only replace what was taken out of the reserve, but also to further oversupply our markets, to further reduce the cost of food in the country. When it comes to the MSMEs across our dear country that are now facing decisions about whether or not they need to start laying off people just to survive, especially the enterprise ownership around the country, we are putting in place an immediate delivery of, over about 175 billion naira worth of a combination of grants and single-digit interest rate loans repayable over a 4 to 5 year term to ensure that not only we can stop the job losses that would occur if we do not intervene, but that hopefully our MSMEs can even expand their operations a bit with the new financial breathing space they're going to be receiving from the federal government in short order. In addition to that, we are at a very advanced stage of the process of national minimum wage review. I did cite wage stagnation as one of those pressure points on the president at the moment. He knows that, if you have the same wage that you had 4 or 5 years ago, and prices are going up across the board, that it's likely that you and your family are going to be in a lot of pain right now, which is why he has been able to strike an agreement with the state governors across the Federation to support financially a new minimum wage. Obviously, the funds saved from the withdrawal of the fuel subsidy allows the state governors to be able to sponsor that effectively without having to resort to more borrowing. So we're on the right course with that. We believe that Nigerians should expect I don't want to preempt the work of the National Minimum Wage Review Committee, but in view of the pain in the country, I do think it's safe to say that we're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of at least a doubling of the national minimum wage, and hopefully even a little bit more than that. So there is succor coming. We are pleading with our people to please be patient with Mr. President. He will continue to engage with Nigerians directly as developments unfold. But he is with them, and he is also ensuring that in as much as we deal with food, as much as we deal with MSME bailouts, as much as we deal with stagnant wages, he's also dealing very aggressively with the energy problem. How we're going to drastically reduce energy prices in the weeks and months ahead by striking a deal through the NNPCL with NIPCO that would see to the establishment of 56 new CNG filling stations across all states of the Federation over the course of the next 18 months, with the first 21 being established over the next 8 months, and the next 35 in phase 2 being established over the next 12 months after that, so approximately 18 months. What that does for us and why that's important to the current situation is that CNG, on average, depending on market conditions, runs between 175 naira per liter to 250 naira per liter, as against PMS that's running at an average of between 617 naira per liter and 700 naira per liter, depending on where you are in the country. So we have the immediate term moves, we have the short term moves, we have the medium term moves, and we're pleading with Nigerians to please be patient with us. We know exactly what you're facing, and we're doing everything.
All right, Ajuri. Now, the reason why I was trying to cut you off is because many of us have read these things you said. We've seen it in the last 1 week or so. But we like to take things in bits and pieces so Nigerians have a thorough understanding. Because when we rush through all the various steps the president is taking, sometimes we speak over the heads of the average Nigerian. So we would have loved to take it bit by bit and what the status is on this, all the disbursement of cash the president promised, the grains, where we are with that, the CNG buses coming up. It would have been great for us to have it laid down one by one so that Nigerians really have a full understanding. But I understand that it was important for you to reel it out for us. However, let me come to talk because I know you have the next question. Go ahead.
So, Ajuri, I wanted to ask about, you've touched on a few of the things that I want to ask, but I would want you to give us in more specific terms. We've said it over and over again that Nigerians we've been heartbroken by our government so many times that there's a we don't trust what we read in the papers. We don't trust you saying you will release grains, you will release funds, because we've heard it several times and we didn't feel it. So it is not, you're not dealing with your own. You're dealing with the fact that we have been heartbroken. So you are going to have to prove yourself over and over again to Nigerians to be able to, for us to take you at your word. You spoke about the fact that funds are going to be disbursed to MSMEs, and then you also mentioned the CNG. But I'd like you to clarify those two. Petrol is being speculated to go to 750 naira per liter based on the scarcity of dollar and the international market cost of crude oil. Is that going to happen? And when it does, would it happen before the disbursement of the funds and palliative, or is it a case that we are going to be able, you're sure the government would be responsive in time for that number one. Number two, I should take it one after the other. I wanted to ask about the CNG. And will we be able to, as individuals, have access to the CNG
buses,
filling stations? I have a car. Can I convert my car into a gas run car? Do we have enough manpower to be able to do that switch for me? And will I be able to buy gas from the CNG filling stations that NNPC is doing with NIPCO?
Great questions and concerns, and I know what you've raised is very much reflective of what I've heard from Nigerians directly as I've gone on nationwide radio in recent days. To be clear, let's take CNG first. So, as I cited, yes, we have the deal with NIPCO for 56 new CNG filling stations over the course of the next 18 months, with 21 of them coming within the next 8 months. Of course, these things take a bit of time, but I do want to say this. There are a few elements to this that I think are particularly exciting as we get into the details. One is that it's a win-win for the country. We have all of our massive gas resources in this country that are not being domestically utilized, that we're flaring, messing up the environment, and we're not earning any money from it. This allows us to monetize our gas resource while saving Nigerians huge amounts of money at the pump. So it's a win-win for everybody. What I will say is this. Aside from the issue of CNG filling stations, which deals with the supply issue, right? Ensuring that there's accessibility to CNG products nationwide, irrespective of where you live. That's goal number one, and that's what we're dealing with the NIPCO agreement. But it's important to note that that's only one agreement. We have multiple partners that we're currently engaging with, and urgency is the watchword here under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He has no time to waste, and he treats every negotiation with that mindset. So we're talking to other partners such as Greenville, LNG, and many others who are very keen to establish filling stations across the country within their virtual pipeline networks. That's their trucking distribution networks that would enable them to be part of this program. In addition to that, I want to mention this very critical point. In addition to having other companies like NIPCO and Greenville and LNG and others that will come into play, also, the president, through the NNPCL, is directing that because NNPC currently has the largest network of retail filling stations across all senatorial districts and states of the Federation, that we're going to now collocate within the existing NNPC filling stations CNG fill-up points, so that we can leverage on the network we already have on ground, which can save us a lot of time. While also getting these private partners involved in CNG, retail. So that's on that. Now you asked a very great question on the issue of demand. We deal with supply by making sure you have the CNG fill-up points all over the country. Now you deal with demand, making sure that Nigerians are in a position to off-take and benefit from CNG. Now, how are we going to do that? There are a few measures. Number one, Mr. President is directed that over a minimum of 50,000 free CNG conversion kits will be granted to transportation companies across all states of the Federation. We want to deal with the areas of transport that affect the bulk masses of our people. These are the lowest income earning Nigerians that are taking buses, that are taking, commercial transport and all of that. We want to make sure that we crash those costs for them before we necessarily start prioritizing the middle class and the elites who have their own cars and their own trucks and all these kinds of things. Let's deal with commercial transport even as we deal with these other classes. But let's give urgent priority to commercial transport. So we're going to be giving out these CNG conversion kits to transportation companies nationwide free of charge. Then after that point, because government cannot obviously fund all CNG conversion kits in the country when you have 13 million vehicles on our roads. So what we're doing is we're going to provide, we're going to leverage on our ability to remove all VAT and customs duties on the importation of all CNG conversion kits in the country to crash the end cost implication on Nigerian consumers who want to purchase a CNG conversion kit. In addition to that move to crash the cost by removing the customs duty and VAT duty on the conversion kits, we're also going to provide, this is very key, financing packages depending on your income level. So if you're a civil servant and you have, let's say, a tukumbo, and you're earning, let's say, 60,000 naira a month, for example, we'll be able to work out an arrangement with you that takes into account your monthly salary and say, look, okay, because you're earning 60,000 naira, we'll allow you to pay 3,000, 4,000 naira a month until you have fully paid for your CNG conversion kit. But meanwhile, on the day that you start your arrangement, you have already converted your car, so you're already benefiting from the savings. So really, in effect, the savings you're going to be getting from using CNG from instead of PMS will be enough to overcompensate for even that monthly payment that you'll be paying toward the payment of your kit. So we're not asking Nigerians to magically come up with a 250,000 naira or 300,000 naira for CNG conversion kit. We will have financing arrangement according to your salary classification. Whether you're a formal economic worker or an informal economic actor, we're going to ensure that we cater that for everybody so that everybody can convert their vehicles, whether na keke napep, whether Okada, whether a vehicle and all of that. And then, of course, we're taking care of transportation companies. Then the next one I want to mention, this is very strategic, is that we recognize that if once we have been able to effectively establish both the supply and demand side on CNG, what that now positions us to do very strategically is the president in the immediate term, because of the urgency and the pain that Nigerians are facing, we're going to import CNG conversion kits and things like that. But over the short to medium term, what we're doing is we're incentivizing with tax reliefs companies that will be manufacturing those CNG conversion kits, and we're also going to be rolling out CNG conversion factories across all states of the Federation, where Nigerian youths will be trained and employed to be those who will be fitting the CNG conversion kits in all vehicle classes nationwide. But then the last point I want to make on this is that we're going to be exporting not only the CNG as a product, but also those buses and vehicles that are now CNG fueled. We're going to be exporting those to our neighbors. So we'll be exporting the supply, CNG supply. We'll also be exporting the CNG demand from Nigerian factories that are producing these buses, producing these vehicles with Nigerian jobs, increasing Nigerian tax payment and tax revenue. So it's a win-win on all sides. We see this crisis as an opportunity. And Mr. President, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is going to ensure that we turn this crisis into a massive economic boon for our country. And that's why we're...
All right. Ajuri, hope we haven't lost you. Ajuri, still there?
I'm still with you.
Second. All right. We're going to be moving into the issue of ministerial nominations right in a moment, but there's a question that came to mind. A few weeks back, we were told that more licenses were given out to oil marketers. How is that going? Because we thought that when we have more marketers importing fuel, eventually, no matter what the price, eventually the price will come down. How is that going? This 57, I think, licenses that were given out, we're told. How is that going? And then the 1 trillion naira that the president said he has saved in the last few months, how do you plan to expend that?
Yeah, oh, fantastic. Okay, so let me start from the issue of oil marketers. I want to use this platform to, if I may, Morayo, to address a myth that is just pervasive in our country. When I go on TV and radio, this is the question, this is the poser that I often get. They say, if our refineries were working, the idea is that if our refineries were working, fuel would be cheap for Nigerians at the pump. Let me take this opportunity for all those watching, and please spread the word, that is a myth. It does not happen anywhere in the world. Even if we had the most refineries producing the most PMS in the world, you would find that the most prolific PMS producers with their refineries, if you go to and see what they're charging at the pump, you will find that it's no different from those countries that don't have refineries. I'm not saying that we should not have refineries. There are benefits to having refineries working, which is why our Port Harcourt refinery is coming on stream December 2023, at the end of this year, phase 1, and then the final phase 2 at the end of 2024. The Dangote refinery is obviously up. That's going to start dishing out products very soon. In BUA refinery, a new 200,000 barrel per day refinery is coming up in Akwa Ibom. We're going to have excess supply that we can export internationally. The point I'm making on this is that The reason why the price at the pump will not go down, irrespective of what your refining capacity is as a country, is because nobody spends billions of dollars, tens of billions of dollars on building a refinery because of charity or because of corporate social responsibility. They do it to make money. So that is why you find that no matter how many oil marketers you have bringing the product into the country, no matter how many refiners you have producing massive amounts of PMS and all of that, the price is dependent on the international benchmark of what the crude oil per barrel is, what the cost of it is. When the oil price is high, the price of the pump will go up. When the oil price is low, the price will go down. These are market fundamentals that are determined not in one country, but on the international stage. So what we are saying is that the benefits of having refining in the country is not that you will have cheap fuel. No. The benefit is that you would have saved the country hundreds of millions of dollars in transportation and logistics costs that we're spending on an annual basis of having to put refined PMS from an international refinery on the water to come to Nigerian shores where we will now offload and send to our distribution stations. You save that money. In addition to that, you save tens of billions of, about $10 billion a year on foreign exchange earnings that we're having to pay out to the refiners and to our partners to get that product exchanged from crude to refined PMS. We save all that money within the central bank as a result of having local refineries. So there are benefits, big benefits, but one of them is not the issue of having cheap fuel. So I just want to...
Ajuri, okay, very good, because when you mentioned Dangote Refinery, myself and Tokwe looked at each other because your administration had promised that we'll start getting that refinery working. I think it was the end of June, we're told?
Yes, they've moved it.
And it's been moved. Do we have a specific date that Dangote Refinery will be up and running?
They've shifted it.
Yes, yes. I think at the last statement from the Dangote company was that the first product would be coming out, if I'm not mistaken, next month. I think it's September, latest October, but it's very, very soon. First PMS will be coming out. So that's coming very, very soon. They've already started it up, but you know there's a very small gestation period window between which you will start up the refinery and actually be rolling out the product. Because once you start rolling out the product, it never stops. For the life of the refinery, it will just continue ad nauseum. It never stops. So that's how that works.
All right. we're going to invite you back in September. You know, when it does start or doesn't start, we'll invite you. Maybe then we can recap on this. But let me come to Toby. She has a question concerning the ministerial nominations. Go ahead, please.
So these are lofty ideas, and we've seen them over and over and heard them over and over again. But one of the things that the president said during his campaign was that he was going to hit the ground running. So my question is direct. When would the ministries be up and running? By that, I mean, when would the ministers be sworn in? So that the ideas can...
Yeah. Thank you very much. So I'm going to answer your question, but then I'm also going to answer the second question of Mariah, which is very, very key, which is about the subsidy savings and how it's being spent. It's very, very important for our viewers to understand this. To your question about government up and running, it's very important to understand that in the absence of the ministers, government has not slowed down an inch. Because you have permanent secretaries that go back to the last administration that have all the institutional memory, and they have been stepping in, performing the functions of the ministers. So in some ways, or this is the irony, in some ways, the permanent secretary that's operating as in the minister's capacity as of now has more institutional memory and understanding of what's going on than even the new ministers when they come on and they have to learn everything from scratch and all of that. You would find that it's actually the permanent secretaries now that would ensure that things actually go a little bit quicker. There's always a small slowdown period when new chief executives enter into a place and they have to pick up and implement policy and all of that. So my point is to say that ministers will be sworn in at some point within the next 2 weeks. They have to go through an orientation retreat through the office of the secretary to the government of the federation, after which they will now be sworn in. But the point is government has not in any way slowed down. In fact, because of what I've just mentioned, it's been able to take off from the last administration very seamlessly. But let me say this to Mariah's question, which is very, very key, is the issue of the subsidy savings. Anybody who is watching this program can verify and fact check what I'm about to say. Go and see what FAC allocated to the states and local governments in the month of April 2023. That was a month before Mr. President took office. It was somewhere in the realm of about 600 and something billion naira, right? In the month of May, the month of the inauguration, FARC allocated approximately 700 and something billion, just a marginal increase over April. Then when Mr. President took office, immediately removed the subsidy, as you recall. So from June 1 to the end of June, there was no subsidy that was being paid and all of that, meaning that you have all of that savings. So it was not a miracle that at the end of June, early July, they announced that FARC was releasing to the states, potentially, at least the number that FARC was allocated, was 1.95 trillion naira. That is a month-on-month surplus of 1.2 trillion approximately over the previous month because of the removal of fuel subsidy. Now, what did we do with this 1.9 trillion is what is important now. First of all, the states that had been averaging approximately between 500 and 600 billion over the course of the last few years, all of a sudden get a windfall of about 900 billion. Right, about 200 or 300 billion over the previous month. Out of the 1.9 trillion, we gave them about 900 and something billion. Now, what that allows them to do is, first of all, the new minimum wage that they've agreed that they're agreeing to, escalate with Mr. President. They are now in a financial position to be able to pay that because they now have more money as a result of the higher allocation that they have received in June. And we expect July to be somewhere in the same ballpark moving forward. Now, the other part of the money, Mr. President had directed that approximately nearly 800 billion would be set aside in a dedicated savings account. Not savings just to have money sitting idle, but to provide an increment to our reserves and also for investment, which is why the president said, look, if we make the mistake that previous governments in this country have made, as an accountant, he understands these things. He said, if we make the mistake of taking the 1.9 trillion and throwing all of it into the economy at once, because maybe out of excitement or to show that we're doing so well, what we're going to end up doing by mistake is that we're going to worsen inflation concerns in the country. We'll overheat the economy. Inflation will get worse. And as a result of inflation getting worse, the central bank will now in turn have to respond by increasing interest rates, which obviously has its impact on investment and on the books of businesses and individuals across the country. So he said, we're not going to overheat the economy. We're going to be careful and we're going to perform surgery on this. So what he now did was he said, we're going to put 800 billion in this savings account, essentially. Part of it will be used to bolster our reserves. Part of it will be set aside for a program that Mr. President established just last month, which was the Infrastructure Support for States program, meaning that states will now be able to come to this account effectively and apply for a counterpart fund for infrastructure projects that's mutually agreed upon between the federal administration and their states for basic education, basic healthcare, railroads, roads, ports, power plants, and the like, to ensure that we immediately provide an injection of funds to create jobs on the construction sites, have that money trickle down into the informal economy with vendors supplying cement, supplying sand, supplying glass, and the like. That's all part of this packet of money that has now been set aside. The rest is now going to statutory transfers to fund, institutions like, the NDDC and many other institutions like the Human Rights Commission and others that are based on statutory transfer funding. So that is what we're doing. And we're going to ensure that Nigerians benefit from all aspects of the savings that we've accrued.
Thank you very much, Ajuri.
Thank you so much,
I would have loved to unpack that, but let's...
Go
ahead.
The truth is, and as I enjoy your delivery,
Presentation.
your oratory. I was excited at your appointment, but listening to you today, I feel that you're trying to bring Nigeria to where you are. You're not coming to meet Nigerians where they are, and we really need you to meet Nigerians where they are because we're all rooting for this administration to work. If it works, it pays us. I'm going to be asking you a question away from the economy to a bit of controversy regarding following the rule of law or not the rule of law, specifically about Nnamdi Kanu, also about Governor Emefiele, as well as Abdulrasheed Bauer. So we have the challenge with IPOB, the CBN governor, and the EFCC. And where is our president's body language concerning how to resolve this in a way that still complies with the rule of law?
Very much. First of all, thank you for your appreciation of the humble work that I do. But let me say that we should also be mindful not to underestimate the capacity of our people by accident. Because I think there's a tendency to think that maybe because of the fluidity of how I speak, that people are not understanding me. I can assure you, my sister, in the marketplace, when people comment on what they see on TVC channels, when they hear me on radio, I speak the same way. They understand what I'm saying. In fact, I intentionally go in to do Q&As where I'm taking direct questions in real time from Nigerians. And when I do that, they show me. They may not sound like me. They may not have the oratorical gift that God has given me in some cases, right? But by their response, I can tell that they fully understand what I'm saying. Nigerians are very brilliant people. Even those who did not have the privilege that some of us had to go and go all the way through university education and all of that, they still have the innate brilliance to be able to understand the level of discussion that we're having. So that's on the one hand. On the other hand, let me say that you know, on the issue of how we can on the issue of the rule of law, I think that on the various, if you take one case at a time of the individuals you mentioned, you find that there are legal processes that are playing out in each of those cases. So, for example, you cite Emefiele, for example. That process is currently on appeal. All right, so it's under appeal. It's not as if there's some judgment hanging somewhere that is not being challenged, and you know, and somebody is just you know, being kept in a box somewhere. That's not what the situation is. Then in the case of Nnamdi Kanu, that is something where you have a lot of obviously political intrigue and the like. We know the history of that case. We know that President Muhammadu Buhari tried the political solution, right? Where you had, I'm not going to mention names, but Nigerians know that there was a serving senator who's still in the Senate who made himself a surety to Nnamdi Kanu at that time, saying, look, nothing will happen. This guy is going to be safely in his house, and I can assure you with my name that as a surety that he's going to be in his house. What now happened? He went to Europe, and then the next thing we know, he's in Europe doing radio message, ordering the burning down of even your office while you guys were in the studio preparing to get to work. Your office was getting burnt down on the orders of somebody who was from Europe, who was supposed to have been out on bail and all of that. The point here is that there are processes playing out. Some people want a political solution to that. Other people want the legal process to play out. And we'll see how Mr. President decides to go about that. But clearly, Mr. President is very much aware of the fact that there is a need to allow the legal process to play out, and he fully understands the history of that particular case. In the case of the former EFCC chairman, it's the same thing. There's no, to my knowledge, judgment saying this must happen or that must happen, and it's not being challenged in the court. So let's allow the legal processes to play out. I always advise Nigerians as much as possible to try and tamp down sentiment and emotion when we are assessing issues that are black and white in terms of law, in terms of how processes should play. Because as a society, our tendency is on one hand to say, you know, we want systems to work. We want institutions to work. We don't want strongmen. We don't want this. We don't want that, right? We have that position. But then as a society, you follow the public analysis and you find out that the same Nigerians who are asking for strong institutions and for processes to play out, irrespective of political interference, are now championing the cause of political interference, saying that the institutions, no, they shouldn't work. We like this guy's face. Oh, he's from this region, so we should make sure that, oh, he's our kinsman, so legal process and institution shouldn't matter again. We should go and interfere and show that we're more powerful than the institution. What do we want? Where do we want to go to? There should be integrity to where, in terms of our arguments, in terms of what we want as a society. And this is the challenge that all of us should agree that, look, if we're going to build our institutions, let's agree that we're building it. But let's not pick and choose when we want institutions to work and when we want big man politicians to interfere in those processes.
Multiple media reports. We heard that El-Rufai withdrew his interest in getting a ministerial role and went ahead to nominate a replacement. Can you confirm or refute this story that is going around?
Unfortunately, I do not. As I'm sitting here, I have no official word on that. I did see the report. I absolutely did see the report in an online news publication, just the way everybody else did. But I have no idea about the details of it or whether it's true or whether it's false. It's the first time I'm even being asked about it. But I do believe that probably the Department of State Security would be in a vantage position to be able to make a very clear statement on whether or not that is true.
Ajuri, let me ask you another question. This is a question that's close to my heart because many Nigerians in my circle believe in the renewed hope agenda. You know, many believe that this government is trying to buy back trust from Nigerians. How far, or do you think, how far have you gone, or do you plan to go in ensuring that the various arms of government are aligned with this agenda or vision? Because recently, the Senate President trended for saying that they are collecting, although constitutionally approved, is it stipends or tokens to their accounts as they go to enjoy their holidays. Now, we understand that this is obviously constitutionally approved, statutorily available for them. But in view of what we as Nigerians are going through, and in view of how hard things are for us, we are adjusting. Do you think the other arms of government or other leaders, political leaders, are aligned, or do they believe in this renewed hope, or are they also adjusting, or are they not?
You know, I don't even know. Sometimes I'm at a loss. You know, on the one hand, I am the official spokesperson of the president, and when I heard those comments, I understood because I know personally the personality of the Senate President, Senator Godswill Akpabio. I understand the jocular, humorous nature of his person, you know, and probably he felt it was a tongue-in-cheek statement and all of that. But there's such a big and large gap between that kind of a statement and the mental and psychological disposition of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu on these notions, that it's when I read it, I just said, this is not. I mean, we're supposed to be representatives of the people in the National Assembly, right? So the representatives, whether senators or House of Rep members, they ought to be more in touch, more in tune with what their people are facing than anybody else. In some ways, even more than the president. Those comments clearly did not reflect that. And I think that hopefully the backlash from Nigerians on that issue will be enough to sober up some of our elected officials in the National Assembly to know that people are not laughing now. People are not looking at how they're going to pay 7 million naira to go to London and see their children who are in universities and all of that. People are hurting. And so it's important for those who seek political power, seek political office, to fully understand what Nigerians are facing. But I can assure you that His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would not have been laughing at that statement at all.
He followed your. He felt. I mean, the Senate President followed your hand, right? I hope you got the joke. Ajuri, did you get the joke? He's not laughing. So go ahead, Touray.
Right, so I wanted to take you to a question I've asked a few times, and since I know that you are closer to the president than I am, you might be able to help us convey this particular question. Nigerians want to know how the government is specifically cutting costs in governance. And while I might not be able to, you cannot answer for the House of Assembly, you can answer for the presidency. What is the presidency and the president doing to cut the cost of governance as it applies to the executives? Because we were all shocked at the number of people that got nominated for ministerial lists, that this was the biggest list, not when we're trying to cut costs. How would you address the mindset of the president now? And we hope you help us convey that we want to know in clear terms and naira and kobo how he's cutting costs.
Fantastic question. So let's take this bit by bit. On the one hand, yes, the nomination of ministers, there has been some public reaction to the effect that, are these not too many and things like that. And we understand the thinking, of Nigerians who have expressed some trepidation or caution about that. But for those of us who have the privilege of engaging with Mr. President, we fully understand that what he's trying to do and what he is doing is to professionalize government. He wants to enhance specialization within our federal ministries, departments, and agencies. And part of that has to do with the fact that he came in and recognized that the current structure of government is too condensed. So you have one ministry, for example, ministries like Ministry of Works and Housing. Housing is a big deal in Nigeria. It's not a small thing. We're talking of where Nigerians are putting their head at night and all of that, where the difference between whether you're sleeping outside or sleeping under a shelter is under the authority of institutions like this, and is being conjoined with Works that is managing all federal roads in the country. What Mr. President said is, look, it's in the best short to medium term and long term interest of Nigerians for us to have one minister who is in charge of each segment of these very massive component parts of what were very loaded ministries before, probably a bit too burdensome for one individual actor and the like as it was before, to say, look, if we have one person that's dedicated to housing as against one person trying to juggle and manage the same 24 hours we all have between two major priorities, let's have one person deal with each one. That way we can get maximum value and maximum attention paid to the problems within those individual sectors. It's the wisdom of the president. He understood that there would be some public reaction, that some people will be unhappy with the optics of it and all of that, but he recognized that this is in the interest of the country and he took that decision. So there are several ministries like that. The Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, disaster management, and I think social development or something like that. There are three different components there that you can break up into individual pieces. The Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, same thing. You can have Ministry of Agriculture on one hand and Ministry of Rural Development on another hand, that deals with the rural economy, that deals with rural infrastructure and the like. So this is the case across several ministries, and the president understands this, and that's why he chose to create specialization and bring in a few more hands to deal with the new structure of government. Now, with that said, as we split these ministries, I want to emphasize this point. We are not having to now employ a whole bunch of new bureaucrats and civil servants. That's the mistake people are making. Just because you split ministries doesn't mean you have to now add to your recurrent. No. What we're going to do is we have an existing pool of oftentimes redundant senior directors in various ministries, duplication of roles amongst various directors, assistant directors, deputy directors. They will now be split across these ministries so that you don't have all of this excessive duplication because of over-recruitment in the past. We'll be able to actually put people to work that have for years now have just been in their offices reading newspapers at the expense of Nigeria's economy. So it's a good thing for the country. What I will say also is that in terms of saving government expenditure, the president has already said, and he means it, that he's dusting off the Aronsai report. We are going to restructure our MDAs fundamentally. I'm not just talking of splitting ministries now. I'm talking about what we do with this massive pool of redundant staff and how we can empower them, not just throw them out and leave them to their own devices or leave them to their fate. No. But we're going to develop a plan of transition so that we can bring down our recurrent and also totally reform our recruitment process. So it's not a matter of, oh, this minister is from Rivers State. As a result, he'll be looking at people from different local government areas of the state to flood into the federal civil service as a form of political reward and all of that. Those days are over. We want professionals. We want first-class graduates. We want the best of the Nigerian youth to be going into the civil service as against just the private sector. There's a lot that has to be done.
Ajuri, you need like a 3-hour show with you because this 1-hour show is not enough. Go ahead, Toby.
Okay, so speaking about continuity, one of the things that we notice over time is that a new administration sometimes forgets all what a previous administration has done and just comes up with new things. So, for instance, as an SME in Nigeria, there was a policy that came up in the last administration where I was a beneficiary of, where the presidency nominated MSMEs for the Award of Excellence. I was a nominee for that too, where grants were given, cars were given, and other things, laptops were also given. And I also have a couple of friends that benefited from that. Are there continuity plans in place, for instance, for such program in place with this present administration?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think what happens is, again, in our public analysis, there is a tendency towards short memory. I think Nigerians know that there's a tendency to kind of forget the distant past in terms of what the situation in the country had been with respect to some of these programs. So, for example, if you look at MSME capitalization, people forget. Before 2015, I have challenged everybody, even during campaign and after campaign, I've challenged people. I said, look, before 2015, can you tell me, in this Nigeria that all of us have been living in for such a long time, can you tell me where an MSME owner, right, on a mass scale, we're talking hundreds of thousands, millions of MSMEs, could go and get single-digit interest rate loan to finance their businesses, to expand their operations? Before 2015, it was impossible. You will try and go into one of these generation banks, UBA, Fidelity, and all the ones we know. You go in. By the time they tell you what is involved, what you need to put on ground in terms of collateral, what the interest rate will be at over 25, 30%, you just walk out shaking your head. It was a practical impossibility for MSMEs to get any kind of lending anywhere in this country. It was when President Muhammadu Buhari came in that he brought in NERSAL and CBN interventions for our farmers, over several million farmers benefiting from anchor borrowers programs, low interest finance. Then in addition, MSMEs, not just farmers now, talking the small mom and pop shops in our markets nationwide, selling textiles, selling this one, selling that one. They were able to now go through, get small loans through the Development Bank of Nigeria, DBN, through the Bank of Industry that had been massively capitalized under President Muhammadu Buhari, and many, many others. These were things that were unheard of before 2015. They were just good ideas. It was President Buhari and the APC that put it on ground. What Mr. President has done now is to accelerate that, to say, look, we're going to enhance our MSME capitalization efforts. We're going to ensure that Bank of Agriculture, Bank of Industry, Development Bank of Nigeria, and several other programs, CBN Anchor Borrowers Program, that we expedite and enlarge the capitalization of these particular facilities for Nigerians to enjoy. So that's on the one hand. So there is continuity. That's the point I'm making. And there is a starting point as to when these programs came. And I can assure you, it was not a single day before May 29, 2015. It was.
All right. Oh, Ajuri, I hope you're still there. I think we lost him for a second.
I'm here.
Okay, sorry about that. So the topic had a question because we have very little time left, so I need to throw in maybe two questions at the same time. Let me give you one, and I'll take the other one.
Yes, so I wanted to ask about the Boso's appointment. So we remember that Boso's screening generated a lot of controversy last week, and it was based on the fact that he had said some things, and Nigerians commended the senators for being very forgiving, but we wanted to understand what was what pre-qualified him to be nominated in the first place from the president's perspective. And
let me throw in my own question because of time. So aside from the Dr. Bosuim Tijani's question, also the Southeast are complaining that they only got 5 slots in the ministerial nomination. How does your president react to that, or how do you react to that?
So, of course, in the compilation of any cabinet, the Constitution is very clear, which is that each state must be able to produce a minister of the federal cabinet, right? All of those constitutional requirements have been satisfied. Yes, we can. There's always this tendency to. There's this movement of the goalposts we see on some of these issues, right? Where we'll say, okay, he may have done this one, but what about this one? When he does this one, what about this one? So, for example, now, you would have a situation where, let's just assume for a moment, Mr. President put in place 15 ministers from the 5 southeastern states, for example. Let's just say 3 per state, right? Another person will be able to say, okay, yes, fine. He produced 15 ministers from 15 Nigerian ministers from Ibo land and all of that. But look at the security agencies.
There's not a single Igbo man or Igbo woman in the security agencies. Oh, look at CBN. There's not a CBN governor from Igbo. There's always a movement of the goalposts. That marginalization discussion is never satisfied. That's the point. I'm saying this as somebody who has been in government, operating in this capacity now for 8 years, engaging in questions and answers on these issues. There is always, take it from me, there is always a movement of the goalposts. Nothing is ever good enough. So what I will just say on this is that constitutional requirement has been satisfied. There are many federal appointments that are still coming, big ones as well that will still come. And I think it's way too early in the day for any region to say that it is being shortchanged. Let's watch and see how government forms, and then when it's fully formed, we can now come to the table and people can now present their opinions.
Who, no matter what you say, no matter how you say, will say you're still lying. You know how Nigerians are very cynical. You know, as Tope had said earlier, you know, we've been battered, bruised, lied to for many years, you know. And even when we see a government who is trying to put things in place, and from the APC perspective, it's like things are going to go worse before it gets better. You know, so where we are right now, Naira was 950 Naira to the dollar, you know. So things are really bad. So no matter what you say now, there are cynics who are going to say, they've started lying again. See all the grammar they are speaking. They're not even listening to what you're saying. How do we carry those kind of people along in helping them see better? Hopefully they can do better.
Mariah, this is such an important question you've just asked. Because, you see, my first press conference as the official spokesperson of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I took my time to explain to Nigerians that we will not do business as usual. We recognize that we have, when I say we, I'm talking of public sector in Nigeria, the Nigerian government as a bloc, not party, not individual now, just the notion of Nigerian government. We have earned the skepticism of Nigerians. Nigerians have every reason not to believe us. We're talking decades now of maladministration. And even the pockets of good that we have done, compared to the mountains of bad that has been done, it's almost inconsequential in the minds of Nigerians. So when President Muhammadu Buhari completed the second Niger bridge, built 5 new international airports, put new railways in the southwest, new Lekki port in the southwest, and all the other things that have been done by the previous administration, you find that he still had to grapple with decades worth of mistrust, decades worth of anger, and all of that from the Nigerian populace. So it's something that is ongoing. But what we are going to do is we are going to level with Nigerians and ensure that from the position of government, particularly those of us who are spokespeople, media functionaries, I said it in my initial press conference, we will not be arrogant. We will not talk down on Nigerians. We will not be those spokesmen that are condescending. They think they're higher than everybody. They're better than everybody because they're in political office. We know where we came from. So what we are saying is that we will level with Nigerians. We will be humble in our approach, and we will be honest with Nigerians. So what we believe is that if we do that, if we level with people, and we treat Nigerians with respect. We don't insult them. We don't show this condescending mindset, arrogant attitude toward them. That there's a mutual respect that develops where people will listen to you because they know that you respect them. And I do respect Nigerians. And spokesmen under this government know that under the leadership of the president, there will be zero tolerance for any of that arrogant, condescending and insulting nonsense, online or offline. So for us, the focus is going to be on saying, look, this is what we're doing. This is what we're going to deliver. This is the timeline that we're going to deliver on. So that once we meet that timeline, you will now say, yes, this government is building trust with us. If we fail to meet that timeline, then Nigerians will rightly say, this government is the same as all those other years of maladministrators and all of that. So that is the focus. Openness, humility, and constant direct communication with Nigerians, telling them what we can do and what we can't do. But what we will not do is we will not be baited and tempted to tell Nigerians what is not true. Because the temptation, let me just give you a practical example. The economic crisis that the country is currently facing, the temptation on a spokesperson like me is to come out and say, all is going to be well in a week. Everything will be okay and everybody will see some form of succor.
I want to be able to say that. But I don't say that because I'm disciplined and I'm determined to be honest with our people. So I'll tell you, look, this thing is going to be 6 to 9 months on the first phase of CNG because that is the timeline that we were given by NIPCO, and we're going to deliver that timeline. But I will not tell you what is true, but sometimes Nigerians, out of their pain, right, and their frustration, which is understandable, they're saying, look, we want you to tell us what you're doing today, and I want to tell you what we can do today, but I don't want to lie to you, because I want to build trust with you. So that's always the challenge that we have. But I can assure you, we're going to do things very differently.
It's on social media for you. Is it true that the president is living in a 2-bedroom apartment in Aso Villa?
That is true. The president is in the glass house, and it is a very small place.
Wow, interesting. All right, let's take a few comments on social media before I release Ajuri, you have any comments for us on social media? Good ones? Anyone?
Safa Lofa says, kudos to Ajuri for the convincing, elaborate expression of national issues. We nevertheless advise that vigorous monitoring system to make the good ideas work.
Fantastic point that comments highlighted. Monitoring. See, all this English you've spoken, which you say Nigerians understand, which I really hope they do, will only be more effective when we have efficient monitoring system in place. And I'd like you to touch on that before we wrap up in news 1 minute.
I want to understand. You said monitoring, right? Monitoring.
Yeah, yes, monitoring. Yeah, monitoring, ensuring that the policies in place as you begin this 6 to 9 months plans. Is there a system in place to monitor to ensure the delivery of these various points that the president has promised us?
Absolutely, which is why the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is in prime position now to empower the presidential delivery unit on our infrastructure projects and on policy oversight. You'd find that, yes, in the past there had been presidential aides, presidential advisors. But if you look very closely, and people aren't really, there are so many issues in the country now, and of course with the Niger crisis outside too, that the nuanced, detailed differences between administrations, people aren't really giving it the attention it requires. Let me give you a practical example. In previous administrations, yes, you had special advisors that carried out their functions and all of that and all of that. What Mr. President has done differently, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, he's doing something that he did in Lagos, which is that the position of special advisor to the president, which I currently hold in media and publicity, but in other sectors such as health, such as trade and others, right? He has put in place people that in other climes they would have even been the ministers. But he put them in place as special advisor to the president, very intentionally. Because what he's doing is unlike before, where you go to Federal Executive Council meeting, and it's only ministers and the president and the vice president and secretary to government, essentially, that will be speaking, right, during those meetings. What is going on now is that it's being, Federal Executive Council under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will be treated as a whole of the executive branch cabinet, not just ministers. So what's going to happen now is you're going to have a special advisor on, for example, it could be economy, it could be trade, it could be anything, who will be contributing at the same frequency as an honorable minister of the same sector. But the difference is that special advisor to the president is the president's eyes and ears over what is happening in that particular ministry and those departments and agencies under that ministry. So now the minister is not just a god on his own. Now it's a situation where the special advisor is the president's check on all of the ministers across the various sectors. It's very, very strategic. When we talk about monitoring, when we talk about delivery, it's something that this president has made a unique characteristic of his administration that no other administration had.
We're out of time, Ajuri. I'm sorry, we are completely out of time. We spent 2 hours, almost 2 hours with Ajuri, and it's still not enough. But definitely, we'll bring you back. Thank you very much for joining. But especially, you have an appointment with us in October concerning Dangote Refinery. I'll write it down. If we don't see you, if Dangote Refinery doesn't come up by October, Ajuri, we will come here and you will get it from the ladies of your view. I can guarantee it. All right.
Thank you very much. I'm your servant, Mariah.
We'll see you Monday. Bye for now.